So this week, lots of things happen in science and space exploration. We had new astronauts going to the space station. We have also a space probe that went into space that got destroyed this week, and we'll talk about that. And we have Japan that was able to land something on the moon this week. We're going to talk about that today. So let's see. So my first topic is the following. So first of all, I do appreciate very much what SpaceX has been doing for space exploration in the last few years. This week, and I think that's this morning, we have a crew that went to the space station. So the International Space Station has been a project with many countries, but lately we have private astronauts going to the space station with SpaceX to conduct scientific investigation. So here we have 4 astronauts that got in this week. So this article is dated January 20th to 2024, and that's today for me. So here we have 4 astronauts. So here Expedition 70 crew members are Jasmine Mobili, Laurel O'Hara. We also have Andreas Mogensen, and we have also Furukawa Satoshi. These are aboard. So these are the people that are already on the space station. So who are the 4 people? Oh, there they are. Michael Lopez Alegria, Walter Villade, Marcus Want, and Alper Gezeraf Shi. And hopefully I did not butcher the name too much. So we have 4 independent private astronauts going to space. They're going to spend about 2 weeks to conduct about 20 experiments, gather data in low altitude into space, and then come back here with their data. That's quite amazing because over the years, if you go back 20 years ago, you would have not been able to think that it would be possible to have a company to train their astronauts and send privately astronauts to the space station for experiments. So this is quite amazing, and SpaceX has done amazing things for that. So they're there for 2 weeks. So they're doing activities. So I know the space station, they're doing work with plants and also fluid dynamics with plants and a few things about their own body to better understand what happens when we have astronauts going to space. Because keep in mind that some of these astronauts here are staying in space for many weeks, some of them many months. So we need to understand what's happening to our body, especially when we go to longer trips to the moon in the next few years and to Mars as well. We need to gather data to better understand the effect on the human body. So that has been happening this week. It is exciting, and they just arrived to the space station. So that's a fun activity. Another one that is of notice is Astrobotic. Astrobotic is also a private company, and their goal is to bring science to the moon. So here, what was interesting is a couple weeks ago, we sent the probe is called the Peregrine M-1. It was launched. The launch went well. However, we had difficulties with the reservoir of fuel to be able to get this piece of equipment on the moon. So they were able to salvage some of the equipment. So what happened is that it went into space. There was a leak on the tank, and they were able to send it towards the moon. So the whole idea was to go and orbit the moon and eventually land on the moon. But because we had issues with the fuel, for sure there was no way we could land this on the moon. So instead of crashing it on the moon and creating debris and waste, they decided to do the best they could to gather as much information as they could through telemetry. So we had this probe that went around close to where the orbit of the moon is, and then came back to Earth to finally be destroyed yesterday. No, it was January 18th. So this is the final update. It says here that this afternoon, and this is dated on January 19, 2024. So that's yesterday. It mentioned that the afternoon Astrobotic received independent confirmation that the Peregrine's safe and controlled re-entry in the atmosphere was able to land in the South Pacific. So this brings the Peregrine Mission 1 to a conclusion. Now, if you go back, there was a map here with the update 20. So here, this is where it was supposed to land in South Pacific. The whole idea here is that they could not salvage they could not bring the mission to an end with the landing on the moon. However, they did everything they could to gather as much information as possible so that they could make this mission a success as much as possible. So the idea here, it was able to, so let's see if I can do a little map. So here we have Earth that was like this. We have here the moon. So the whole idea was to be able to send this dude here to go in the path of the moon, come here and go back when the moon will be around here. So that was more or less the whole idea. Now, because they had issues with the fuel, what they decided to do. So let's see. So they were able to go here, go as far away as the moon's path, and they brought it back here to land in South Pacific. So in many ways, this is a success. They were able to launch, they were able to collect data. So as a private company, they have enough data to make mission 2 a much bigger success. Keep in mind that we have, so humans, countries with their budget have been sending pieces of equipment on the moon and in orbit around the Earth and around the sun and even beyond. But the whole idea here, it takes a lot of money. So to be able to have a private company to do this, this is quite exciting. So this is a success in many ways. So that is the second topic I wanted to talk about today. The third topic is about Japan that was able to land their lander on the moon, and that was at 20 minutes after midnight, our time. So it's just a few hours ago. So let's see. So we have here that, oops, I should probably show that to you. You would like to see that, I'm sure. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. So we have here that results on the moon landing by the smart lander for investigating the moon. So here we know that there was a successful landing. So that's the first thing. So just that is an amazing success. Keep in mind that a few months ago, India was able to have a successful landing, but Russia had a bit of difficulties with theirs. So as you can see, there are still a lot of learning activities and events that need to occur to make sure things work well. So the whole idea here was to be able to land this piece of equipment. But beyond that, it was a learning opportunity to be able to focus on where we can land. So I was able to find the press release information. So let's see if I can show you what I've got here. So let's see. Let's see if I can find. So there we go. So by the way, all the links will be in the comments below when this video will be published so that you can have a good idea of what it is. And by the way, I think when I schedule this live, you can see the links in the description. So here we have the Moon Sniper. So the whole idea here is to send a lander on the moon and have a little rover going, and I'll share with you what is that little piece of equipment that is planning to roam around, and it to have a successful landing. So that's the main thing here. So let's see if we can have information about this mission. So let's see. So for this mission here, we have two craters. Craters are important because it allows to figure out where we are. We can see those from Earth. And here the plan was to land the lander right here. And the whole idea here is we wanted to see if we can focus a landing within 100 meters. Now, that is quite important. And let's see if I have the mission statement here. So the two objectives were the following. First of all, is the demonstration of high precision landing technology on the moon. So far, when humans were sending landers on the moon, the precision was within a few kilometers. Are you going to say, well, within a few kilometers for the moon, it's still quite precise. The problem, though, is that In the future, we want to be able to have research facilities on the moon. So whenever we send equipment, food, and resources, we want to be able to send these resources close to where humans will be to minimize the energy to go and get it. Keep in mind that imagine if you were on the moon and you were sent resources, but you had to drive 5 kilometers to get it, and then 5 kilometers back. Just the resources needed in time, fuel, oxygen, and so on. It's tricky. So to be able to focus the landing is important. So we know that landing happens. What we're waiting for right now, and the landing happened probably less than 12 hours ago. We want to know how precise the landing was. So here, and the next one will be to realize to use telemetry to have better understanding of where the landing happens so that the next landing is better. So here, there are several criteria that we're looking for. The minimum criteria was to be able to create a lightweight spacecraft and be able to have a lunar landing descent, and then make sure that we can have an orbit around the moon. So that happened, and we know it worked well. To have for full success, the whole idea here is to have high accuracy landing within 100-meter accuracy, but also to be able to confirm it by telemetry. So we can send information to the lander. However, you still have to do a few things by the machine, so it's not as easy as we think. So that we're still waiting for that, but we know the landing happened. And for the extra, we want to make sure that once we get there, there's enough energy so they can do some reading and be able to use more telemetry to gather information from the environment. From what I know, when it landed, the solar panels were not gathering energy, and therefore the battery is very low. So here we're waiting for a better alignment of the sun to recharge the batteries. So that there's a few things here. We're in between the full success to extra success. We'll see what happens. So here's an example of what it is. So here you can see it is, we have the thin film solar cells here, and these are the ones that seems that they're not producing energy. So they just hope, they think that the connections are still good, and that just the amount of sun there is a bit tricky. So this is something that we will be looking into. Let's see if I can share with you how this landing happened. So here we have some equipment, and there's a link of this document in the comments below. And let's see. Okay, so the whole idea here is that we have this lander here getting close from the orbit and figuring out where it is to be able to find the place of landing, using the rockets to slow it down, and then it will land on its side. So there's another example here with the information where it is. Oh, there it is. See, it's coming down vertically, and as it gets close to the ground, it will be tilting on its side so that it is able to do all the work it needs to do. And you can see here the solar panels are on the top. We're waiting for the information from the sun. Now you have to keep in mind that there's no atmosphere on the sun. So that means that there is nothing there to slow down whatever we send there. So that's why it's important to make sure we have the fuel to do so. The activity from the Peregrine M-1 that did not succeed is that the fuel reservoir had a leak, and that's something that they could not do. And that's why they brought back the lander, and it was crashed in the South Pacific Ocean. So see, still a lot of things we need to work out. And good. Something that was exciting, let's see what else. Oh yes, I saw that on this lander, they also added what we call Lunar Excursion Vehicle 2. So this is a small vehicle that can move independently, and it has a little camera. So I went to the government of Japan Facebook page, and I have here a small video of what it is. So they use technology of what we do with toys, It is about the size of a tennis ball. And you could see it's a ball like this that can go sideways, that can open up. And then depending on the environment, it can roll and explore around. The reason why it's new technology, I think it was made by some people that are inventing toys. It's not very big, but enough to figure out what is happening around the lander. So I think it's exciting. And you know what? I'm sure we're going to see more and more. These are the toys that we can play with in the sandbox. I'm sure if you go online, if it's not available right now, it will be available in the future. Now, what is interesting also from this, I have another project that is exciting. So a few months ago, India also sent a lander on the moon. The mission is called Chandrayaan. The lander landed nicely. There was no problem. And what is interesting is that on this lander, there is we have the Vikram lander. And let's see if I can find information. Do we have the lander? No. So on the lander, we have this small mirror. It's not very big. It's maybe 5-6 centimeters. And if you send a laser beam towards it, the laser beam comes back to you. And the interesting thing is that we have probes orbiting the moon, and it was able this week to send laser towards this lander and come back to us. And that was important because we were able to actually locate exactly where the Indian lander landed. So it's kind of exciting, and it's right here. And the only way we could do that is indeed using laser for distances and location. Keeping in mind that the more we can know about the environment in the southern part of the moon, the better it will be. Now, the reason why we like the southern part is that because of the spherical shape of the moon, it is a bit further from the sun, and we always hope to find in the craters. You can see the shades here in the craters. We hope to be able to find water, because if you can find water, then we will be able to have humans that could go with the water source, what it is important, and through electrolysis, we can produce hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen for us to breathe, but there's also the hydrogen and oxygen to create heat and energy. All of that is important, and it's part of exploring our moon. And these are the key topics that have been going on in space exploration this week. I wanted to share that with you. This is a topic of interest, and I'm sure that you have learned a lot. Keeping in mind that in order to have those projects, that's true that we have astronauts and cosmonauts trained to go to space, but we have everything that supports that industry. We have the engineers and the technicians putting together the machine and the equipment needed to be the scientists to send those into space, but everything related to communication to make sure that we can communicate with this equipment so we can learn from that. Lots of opportunities for you to be able to get involved in space exploration industry. On this, I wish you an excellent afternoon. I'm going to put here another video for you to go and watch about science. We're here to learn more, and I'll see you there.